In a decision that will echo for decades, the Supreme Court has delivered a stunning rebuke to executive power. The ruling handed down this morning invalidates the sweeping tariffs imposed during the Trump administration. This is not just a technical change, it's a fundamental reordering of American economic statecraft. For years, presidents used tariffs as a primary tool of foreign policy. That era has just ended. The shockwaves are being felt from Ohio's factory floors to Beijing's boardrooms, signaling a new chapter in global trade. The ruling tells the world, the U.S. president's economic power has firm constitutional limits. Allies and adversaries alike must now recalibrate their approach to Washington. The immediate impact is uncertainty, but also opportunity as global markets process this new reality. The court has drawn a bright line, asserting that the broad delegation of power to presidents has limits. This is a check on the imperial presidency, fundamentally altering the balance of power in Washington. The world is watching to see how the executive and legislative branches respond to this judicial earthquake. At the heart of this ruling are the tariffs enacted under two controversial statutes, Section 301 and Section 232. Section 301 tariffs targeted China, covering hundreds of billions in goods, justified as a response to unfair trade practices. The court found the president overstepped the authority granted by the Trade Act of 1974, using it for a broad, prolonged conflict Congress never intended. Section 232 tariffs imposed on steel and aluminum hit both rivals and close allies under the guise of national security. The Supreme Court ruled that national security was stretched beyond its breaking point, used for economic protectionism. The justices didn't ban all tariffs, just those implemented through abuse of delegated authority. The message: if a president wants a trade war, they need clear current authorization from Congress. The decision returns significant power over trade policy from the White House to Capitol Hill. The practical effect: a vast web of import taxes is now invalid and companies may reclaim billions in paid tariffs. Businesses are scrambling to understand their new financial footing. The government must now manage the fallout of its invalidated policies. The Supreme Court's logic is rooted in the separation of powers. The majority opinion argued that Congress holds the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and cannot give it away entirely. The executive's use of Section 301 and 232 was a wholesale transfer of legislative authority, not what Congress intended. The court revived the non-delegation doctrine, stating Congress can't offload its essential legislative powers. The Trump-era tariffs were so vast, they amounted to creating new law, not executing existing law. The court declared, such power belongs to Congress, not the Oval Office. The ruling also criticized the executive's procedural shortcuts and open-ended campaigns. The message: presidents can't use vague old laws to impose massive economic policies. Congress must legislate. The era of passing the buck on tough trade decisions is over. This ruling changes the playbook for U.S. trade policy. For decades, presidents relied on executive authority to manage trade disputes, using tariffs as leverage. Now that power is severely weakened. Presidents can't credibly threaten sweeping tariffs without Congress. The center of gravity shifts from the White House to Congress. Any significant trade action now requires partnership between the president and lawmakers. U.S. trade policy will become slower, more deliberative, and more political, subject to lobbying and partisan battles. This may lead to more stable policy but also risks gridlock and slow responses to unfair trade practices. Foreign leaders must now consider Congress as much as the president in negotiations. Future trade agreements may be more durable, forged through broader consensus. The big question: is Congress ready to take on this responsibility? For decades, lawmakers avoided tough votes by granting broad authority to the president. Now that power is back in their hands. Will they rise to the occasion or descend into partisan squabbling? For American manufacturers, this decision creates clear winners and losers. Immediate winners: companies relying on imported materials. Automakers, electronics firms see costs drop as tariffs vanish. This could boost production, investment, and hiring in these sectors. Losers: industries protected by tariffs, like steel and aluminum, now face cheaper foreign competition and potential job losses. These industries will turn to Congress for new protection. The ruling forces a reckoning for America first, industrial policy. Tariffs as a tool are off the table. Policymakers may now look to subsidies, tax incentives, and worker training to support U.S. manufacturing. In the short term, expect disruption as companies and supply chains pivot. Washington will see intense lobbying as industries plead their case. The factory floor becomes a battleground, not between nations, but between American sectors fighting for survival. For the average American family, the impact is simple: lower prices. Tariffs are taxes on imports, often paid by consumers. Their removal means costs for goods like electronics and furniture will drop. After years of inflation, this ruling offers broad economic relief. It won't be instant, but over months, prices for many imports should stabilize or decrease. This acts as a small tax cut, boosting purchasing power for families. Retailers will see costs fall, giving them flexibility to lower prices or invest in their businesses. Increased competition may force domestic producers to become more efficient. While this eases inflation, it won't solve it entirely. Other factors still affect prices. The Supreme Court has prioritized lower costs for consumers over protectionism. For China, this ruling is seismic. Section 301 tariffs were the core of America's confrontational policy toward Beijing. Their sudden invalidation removes the main point of friction, signaling a unilateral ceasefire in the trade war. China's export-driven economy gains relief, but the US-China competition isn't over. The battlefield shifts from broad tariffs to targeted measures. Expect stricter export controls on sensitive technologies. The focus moves to preventing China's technological edge, not taxing everyday goods. Beijing must decide, de-escalate and address issues like intellectual property, or see this as US weakness. Most likely China welcomes relief but remains wary, pushing for technological self-sufficiency. Washington must now build a new China strategy without unilateral tariffs, requiring closer collaboration with allies. The trade war as we knew it is over, but strategic competition enters a new, more complex phase. Both nations must adapt to this new reality. The decision forces a global recalibration of relationships with the US. For allies like Canada, Mexico, and the EU, the ruling is vindication, repairing diplomatic damage from tariffs imposed under national security. It shows US checks and balances are robust, restoring faith in America as a reliable partner. Allies are more likely to engage in long-term cooperation with a US grounded in law and consensus. For developing economies, the ruling brings stability and predictability to global trade. The end of unilateral US tariffs reduces uncertainty, making it easier for smaller countries to plan and invest. It reinforces the importance of rules-based international trade, not raw economic power. However, adversaries may see a Congress-constrained US as less formidable and test the new system. Allies will watch to see if the US can forge coherent trade policy through its complex legislative process. The world must adjust to a slower, more decentralized American system. Relief is widespread, but it's tempered with watchful waiting. The global trading system is entering a new era. In one stroke, the Supreme Court has upended American trade policy and redrawn the lines of power in Washington. The era of the tariff president is over. Congress now holds the critical economic lever. For consumers and import-reliant industries, relief is coming. For allies, it's a chance to repair relationships. For protected industries, it's a setback. The immediate future is one of transition. Businesses and markets must adapt. The focus now shifts to Capitol Hill, where forging a new trade strategy will require bipartisan compromise. The debates will be fierce, pitting consumers against producers, free traders against protectionists. This decision is about more than tariffs. It's about the nature of presidential power in the 21st century. The court has enforced a limit. Major economic decisions must be made through legislation, not executive decree. The Supreme Court has returned power over trade to Congress. But will lawmakers use it effectively? America's place in the global economy now depends on their answer.